Kavanaugh. I'm the Commodore of the Meadow Haven Model Yacht Club in south central Pennsylvania. We're located in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. We have a couple of nice ponds here, and we have a very active club that sails the Dragon 465s, and we're just starting to sail some EC12s. But the purpose of, the reason I'm talking today is because there's a new club getting going, the Maryland Model Yacht Club, the Northern Maryland Model Yacht Club, and it's located just, they have a venue just north of Frederick. So it's in a nice central location, beautiful lake, and as with all new clubs, they need to have a way to lay out the course on the water so the boats know where to go. The skippers know where to sail the boats. So they need some marks. And this is an example of a mark that has been in use here for about 8 years, I would say. And it's a design that has sort of evolved. Okay, it's made very simply and inexpensively, and they're very durable. Okay, so I'll just show you how they work. I'll show you how they work first, and then I'll show you how we put them together second. So the first thing we do is we're going to get ready to deploy the buoys, which means we're going to toss them out into the lake. This is the advantage of this system is you don't need to have a recovery boat to deploy the buoys and bring them back in when you're done at the end of the day. So what you do first off is, it's a Navy term, you fake down the line, which means you lay the line out on the shore so that it pays out in the proper order without tangling up. Okay? So I just lay this out, and just like that, okay? And then you hold the two weights up close to the ring, okay? And you see the noodle design is such that there's a little bit of give, okay? Which really gives you a nice mechanical advantage when you go to throw the buoys out. The most important, a thing that everybody makes a mistake with at least once is be sure to step on the line or on the handle of the line so that when you throw the mark out, you still have control of the line from the shore. Otherwise, it all goes out into the lake or into the pond and you can't get it back. So then you look at a particular spot that you want to put it in the water and you throw it. And it goes out, and when it hits the surface, the two lead weights deploy like that, and that holds the buoy in place. And then the second lead weight takes the line down, okay, and holds the line on the bottom. And then, of course, then ashore you have this, so that when you're done at the end of the day, you can just reel it in. Just reel it in. Okay, so that's how the system works, and then it's got a flag on it. It stands up nice and vertically. This is a bright colored one. They're easy to see. You can use a variety of colors. These noodles come in all sorts of colors, and that makes them kind of fun and interesting. It also makes it easier then to describe the course to people, because you can say, at the yellow mark, leave it to starboard, and then when you get to the blue one, you leave it to port, or whatever it is you're going to do. Okay, so how do you make them? Okay, they are fairly simple. I use a 5/8 inch eye, okay? It's nice and heavy. That's to hold it up and hold the noodle up in the vertical. And then I use a piece of PVC. I use a 1/2 inch outside diameter PVC, and it turns out that just nicely accommodates the 5/8 inch eye. So then I screw the nut all the way up because I like the extra weight, and then I take some thickened epoxy. I use microballoons. You can use dust from your workshop to stir in, and that gives you a nice seal. Okay, and it holds the PVC there. The purpose of the PVC, okay, this is about a 6-inch piece. This is a fairly short piece of noodle. If that noodle that I use is 18 inches long, you might want to use perhaps 12 inches of PVC. You want to have it substantially provide some substance to the noodle so that the noodle over years doesn't become droopy. Okay, you want it to hold its verticality and look nice. So here's a piece of PVC that I've already epoxied a noodle to. Epoxied piece of PVC to. And then the idea then is to take the PVC and insert it into the noodle. Okay, it turns out the 1/2-inch PVC fits very nicely into the noodles. So here's one that I have used some thickened epoxy. I've used some epoxy to hold the eye into the noodle. Okay, and then so that takes care of that part. So then the next thing you need to do is you need to drill some holes into some wine corks, and then make it the right size for whatever size dowel you're going to use. These are 1/4-inch dowels. They work pretty well. If it's much thinner than a 1/4 inch, they break too readily because you'll have helpers who will be throwing your buoys into the water, and sometimes they'll break them off. Okay, so I at least a 1/4 inch dowel, and not too much bigger than that because it's hard to get a nice hole in the cork. So here's a cork that I've put the dowel in, and I've epoxied it in place. And so you can see it. All you have to do is get it into the cork. It doesn't need to go any further than that. Okay, and then you can just epoxy the cork into the noodle, and that's sort of what it looks like. Okay, so the next thing then is to put a banner of some sort in here. I have used a little saw to do that with. It's a little tricky, but it turns out if you lay it in the slot in your workbench and you work at it, you can get a nice little slot. And that just makes it easier then to tuck in a banner. I use actually it's a 4th of July tablecloth, disposable tablecloth. It's got silver on one side and red on the other. But you can use, some people use pieces of plastic bag. You find one that's a nice color for you, and you just go ahead and cut it fairly thinly. Okay, you don't need a real broad band of a banner up there. You just need a nice little band. There we go. And then you just slide it into the groove that you've made, that you've cut into your dowel. Okay, and that'll hold it while you glue it in place. And then they last pretty long. That's probably the most vulnerable part of the rig, is the banner. So sometimes you have to replace them, and every once in a while you have to replace or fix one of the dowels. I'll show you. Here's a survivor of this is a long-term survivor buoy. You can see that the noodle is not as long as it once was. That's because we have snapping turtles in our pond, and they like to snip at these things a little bit. So I've cleaned that up a little bit, and this one has lost its original 1/4 inch dowel, and I've got I think it's a 3/8 inch dowel in there now, and a little bit thicker. So you can modify them, and all of the dimensions that I've given you are approximate, so that you can build it. So then you've got this ring, okay? So here's a cannonball sinker. They weigh 8 ounces apiece, and they do the job as long as the wind isn't too strong. If the wind's too strong, for a pound of lead weight, it might be too strong for most boats. So you take the lead weight, okay, and what I use currently is Venetian blind line, okay. Another friend of mine has adapted this procedure, and they use fishing line. This is actually a 150-pound fishing line, and it behaves pretty well, and so that's another way to go. Okay, so you got your line, and you got it the length that you want. Now, how long do you want the line? Well, the line has got to be long enough so that 2 lengths of it go down to the bottom. Okay, so you got the bottom times 2. Okay, and then how far you want to throw the line out, you're going to have to assess depending on what your pond situation is and what your lake situation is. Okay, and so that could be 50 yards. I don't know what it be. Depends on what your situation is. Okay, so you take the bitter end of the line and you put it through the eye of the buoy of the mark, okay, and you tie 1 lead weight. Forgot about that. First, you thread 1 of the 8-pound leads through the line, and you leave it there, and then you put the bitter end through the loop, okay, and you tie the second lead weight on. I'm just going to do a 4-in-hand knot here, just for demonstration purposes. Obviously, you want a more substantial knot than that, and you obviously will remember to super glue your knot so that it stays forever. Okay, so that way you've got it so that the 1 lead weight is on that side of the ring, and the other lead weight is on this side of the ring. And that way, as the lead weights sink, the buoy stays on the surface, and you're all set. And the second lead weight then holds the line down on the bottom. That enables it to get a head start on sinking, and it'll sink nicely for you. That's about it. The net result is, I'll tell you that I've got some marks out here that have been in use for 10 years, and it looks like they have every reason to they'll go another 10. The one last item is, okay, so that at the bitter end of your big long line here, however long it is, you need to have some way of reeling it in or tying it off. Now you could, I've done several different things. This is an example of a piece of dowel that I cut a couple of pieces of, and then some scrap wood from the wood shop, and I just used some screws into the dowels. And this one I think has lasted about 6 years so far. The other thing, a friend of mine bought some line that came on a plastic piece of plastic, and then another friend of mine found out that you could make a 3D copy of this, and if you've got one of those machines that does that, and so that enables you then to reel the line in and put it away neatly for the next time. And that's about it.